Mm. Okay, so last time we discussed about 10 layers of Buddhist action. Number two, they are able to work for the welfare of all living beings. This is called beneficiary activities. Yeah, so that's the point of Bodhisattva, right? No matter what they do, they only think about working for others, not for themselves, not to bring a benefit for them, right? Mm. So for the common people, most of the time they prefer to work for themselves to have their own benefit, to have their own interest. So yeah, of course, some other people they have this kind of mind too. But what do you think? Half and half of people that like to work for themselves, for their own interest, another half they like to work for others, or just one third, or what do you think? In general, what do you think?
Yeah, I think generally people are thinking about taking care of their immediate concerns. So the world is pretty tough for a lot of people, like just to kind of get enough for themselves and their family. They most people have to work pretty hard. And then I think most people have the sense of like they worked really hard for that. They don't feel like they have to let other people have the benefit, like they want to have the benefit of the money. And so then there's I think the main drive for the vast majority of all of us humans is to take care of ourselves and then the immediate people in our circle. You know, if we have a wife or children or parents or um, and then there's a percentage of us who then take some of the extra we have and then give it to help in some way. But I think, most of us, especially in the United States, there's so much just normalization of really excessive lifestyles, like amounts of money that say a $5,000 bag. There's people who will buy a $5,000 bag and they'll use it once and they'll never use it again and it sits in their beautiful closet. And if they'd taken that $5,000 and they used it to help people, they could have saved, at least a few lives,
Mm.
like, or dramatically changed the lives of, um, you know, 10, 20 people. So it's weird, I think. I think it's weird how able we are, like how we're able to be so disconnected, where it's normal in our society for someone to have a ton of excess and to not even be touched by the thought of, wow, like what could I do if I was helping the people who really needed help? Um, but then there are people who are touched by it and who do quite a bit. So what their motivation for doing that action is I think debatable. In a lot of cases, it's not like bodhicitta. I think that's incredibly rare.
Mhm. A bit different, right? Even
Mhm.
one that do the public work, like the officer for government, so most time they just want to have the title, at least the title, to have position in society, and that they may take advantage of those kind of title to run their own business. So in general, what do you think? It's pure rare for people who sacrifice or dedicate their life for others, right? It's pure rare, right?
Oh, incredibly rare, especially if it's a really focused, like it's their full being is into it. I think very rare.
So if that's the case, so how could we promote the Bodhisattva path then? Is peer top? Is it in realistic way? What do you think?
I think it's beneficial even to just even for someone who's not ready to set out and take the actions, it's beneficial to just contemplate bodhicitta, to just
Mm.
to see it as an as to see it as the ideal. Because if we don't even consider that sort of mind state, that sort of ideal, um, then it's like we're missing something there. And considering it, it's like we've gained something, even knowing about that. It's sort of what even in Christianity they point out. I think in Christianity they ended up using a lot of teaching mechanisms that mirrored the Buddhist teachings, but like in a different way. So the figure of Jesus is very much one that represents this same sort of ideal of sacrificing oneself for the benefit of others. I mean, that's the core of the story. So I do think it is a common idea. I don't think it's not a common idea. It's people are familiar with an aspect of that, of the idea of bodhicitta through Christianity. Um, in Buddhism, it's fleshed out tremendously, and it's discussed from so many different angles so thoroughly, and it's really completely elaborated. Whereas I feel like the version in Christianity, it's similar to it, but it's not as completely elaborated. So I think people can aspire to it. So they can see it as an ideal, and then they can uh, hold it in a place of honor in their mind, that way of being. And then periodically when they when they think of it, they can aspire to that action, or they can take on a practice to try to remind them. Um, and then gradually train themselves in it, where they don't, it's not realistic to think that they're going to hear about bodhicitta and then tomorrow they're going to be Mother Teresa, or they're going to, be Earth Store Bodhisattva.
Yeah. So again, not only this modern time, but in any times, uh, in human life, when we talk about sacrifice our life, dedicate our life for others, it's not easy, right? Um, because most of the time we want to enjoy our life. Most time we don't want to be suffer on behalf of others, unless, like you say, unless they are our intermediate relatives, like parents, our spouse, our children, because we love them, and also on the top that we have this responsibility to take care of them. Otherwise, for the outsider, there's no way. Um, so while you were talking and thinking about the case of Tibetan people, so of course they talk much about the bodhicitta, and in the case of Tibet, so somehow Dalai Lama, he say, well, um, that is the in one way, right? They sac they sacrifice the country for the peace of others. Uh, I put this way, in the clear way that let's say if some thieves come to our house, they take things away from us. They steal something from us, like the car, even the cars, the watch, and so forth. So according to the Ben views about bodhicitta, that's a chance for us to give them to give them the thing that they want to have, so that we can enrich our blessing and virtue. So of course this is in line with Buddhist teaching, but I suspect that is inapplicable, right? What do you think? Is it impractical?
Mm.
Mhm.
Well, perhaps in the setting of a robbery, it could be practical because if one's ready to like let go of things and not be attached and like let the burglars have them, well, they're much less likely to get in a confrontation with the burglars then, and less likely for there to be some sort of violence. And if they can really see it as part of their practice to let go, and not only let go, but to actually wish the burglars well, uh, then I think it's really super applicable if someone can do it. I think that it's just hard to not be attached to those things and to what we think it means for that to happen. Um, yeah, or to like, call the police after after the burglars leave. Because the other consideration could be not just my stuff, like, hey, they can have my stuff. I'm not going to press charges. Or maybe I do need to press charges because what if they go rob from someone else? If they did it to me, that's probably what they're doing. So if I don't do anything to help stop them, then so it's a tough one because you could be compassionate for the burglar, but then how do you be compassionate also for the other people they may try to steal from?
Yeah, yeah, we can rationalize why we call police, why we need to stop them, right? And there's no way for us to think that, oh, okay, if they take our stuff, they will owe us something in the future based on the law of karma, and they have to pay one way or others. But there's no way. There's no way for us to think in that way, right?
No, I think you could think that way. Yeah. I just it's going to be hard for someone who is newer to the idea of karma and reincarnation for it to feel like anything more than an intellectual exercise. But if someone is really, is convinced of the laws of karma and reincarnation, then yeah, I think you could totally think of it that way. And there are a lot of cases where you call the police anyways. Like, what are they going to do? Like, do you have video of these people? Do you have their license plate? If you don't have any of that and they got away, I mean, they're probably going to keep your stuff whether you want them to or not. So, I mean, it'd be better to be at peace with it than to be upset about it.
And sometimes people read the Buddha past life. They wonder why did he even give his sons or his children or his wife away? You know
Mm.
the story of that, right? In the Chaka Tales, right?
I can't think of any ones where he gave them away, but I've heard. I mean, in the sutras, it's mentioned like in the Lotus Sutra multiple times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some about that, some story that some greedy man came and asked for his children, and he gave his children to them. And of course, that's the context of people 1,000 years ago. They cannot be applicable in these modern times. But someone, especially American friends, they wonder how could he give his wife and children away, and why didn't you care? Why didn't he care about them? Why didn't he care about their sentiment, their welfare? Because when he gave them to the greedy people, they may torture or mistreat their wife, his wife and children. Then,
Yeah, that's it doesn't seem to match with all the other teachings because yeah, you have a responsibility to take care of your children, you have a responsibility to take care of your wife, and it seems to be I mean, that sort of situation where someone like, I mean, even the story where the king who cuts his head off because the neighboring king wants him to, like, I get like in one dimension the dimension of non-attachment, like the same thing with the kids, like, okay, yeah, I'm not attached to possessing these people,
Mm.
But a bodhisattva is attached to the well-being of living beings in the sense of that that's their whole drive. And it would seem that if one killed oneself so that the other king wanted him to kill himself, would all the people that depended on that king, and he was a good king, and the other king is not a good king. So it's like in killing himself, he would, like, unless he knew something more about what was going to happen somehow, like spiritual powers. But the normal course, you would think, okay, good king's dead, a bad king's alive. Well, things are going to be worse for the people.
Mm.
And the same thing is like with that. If some greedy people want your kids and you give them your kids, like the kids are probably going to have a terrible life. So those stories are hard to level with the main line of the teaching.
You know, the story that when the Bad King came to invade his country when he was a king, so he gave up his throne and became homeless. Of course, a lot of people suffer because of that, especially because of the bad king. But still, he accept that. So if the people now they read those kind of Buddhist story, they think Buddhism is so pessimistic, so passive, and somehow it's go out the line. What do you think? And
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I would just wonder about like the when you have those sorts of teachings that like don't they I mean they show up again and again though throughout all the sutras. The ideas are really there. The you know like the possession of a wife or a child, and it seems like there's not a relationship really. Like back then, if we're talking about like culturally, this was kind of more normal, like to give away your kids. It would say that there wasn't really a relationship with the child. It was just kind of like, yeah, you like take care of them food wise, but you don't really have any emotional bond. Because it just seems so obvious nowadays that that emotional bond is really important. And it's hard to imagine that back in those days, the Buddha wouldn't be sensitive to that. Like it seems like that was like in all the other teachings, obviously the Buddha knows that parents love their children, so
yeah, but of course we understand that is the ultimate practice of generosity. He could give anything else, whichever thing he has. That illustrate that's the generosity parameters. But on the other hand, uh, several kings, Vietnamese Buddhist king, when the Mongolian armies invade Vietnam during the 13th century. So those king led the Vietnamese people to defense for the country. Of course, in the course of fighting, yeah, they killed so many enemies. And after the war, 3 wars, he denounced the throne to become a Buddhist monk. But somehow the Vietnamese people they review him a lot, yeah, up to now. So so for this kind of kings, he more religious, more practical, and more religious one, right? Because he need to have this responsibility to protect his people and country first, before his religious spiritual practice. Of course, it's opposite with the Buddha. Regardless of the situation, he could give his body or whichever belonged to him. And another thing, another extreme that Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, they were Buddhist country before, right? Before the Muslim came. And there's some people they say Buddhism is so uh, passive that just let the Muslim conquer or kill so many Buddhist monks and nuns without find back. And now we have the Burmese people, you know that, right? The Burmese monks who advocate that they need to protect Buddhism regardless of the cost, right? So of course that's why the West they criticize those monks as the extremist one. So um, again, uh, it's not easy for us to balance out. One extreme of the Buddha that he give up anything that he has. Now extremely, yes, for those Buddhist king or monk, they want to protect the religion, but with the cause of harming others. So what do you think? Yeah, how could we balance
Yeah. It's
it?
hard to protect a religion whose like core tenet is not to kill by killing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, you just, I can't, no, what's a good analogy of that? It's, it's like, yeah, the only analogy I can't think of a good one right now, but it doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense on one level, but the thing you're protecting has already been destroyed.
That's why yeah, what happened if some intruder come to our house and try to kill our family members, our children, whoever. So we just stand there and watch, or we have to defend ourselves and others, right? So that's in more practical sense there. Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah.
How we apply this Bodhisattva path that we work for the sake of others.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if your family members, if they're killed, all the things that they'll do in their life, they won't be able to do. So if they were going to help other people, if they were, who knows? And here's someone who's, willing to kill people. If they're willing to kill, one of my family members, they're probably willing to kill other people's family members. So I mean, I think you're really within your like on that level, it's good that you draw up these contrasting scenarios, the macroscopic view of like a war, and just a microscopic view of just your home. Like we're not talking about protecting the existence of Buddhism. We're just talking about like protecting a life. And it seems to me that defense and protecting a life, that seems to always make sense. Like even though you shouldn't kill, it's like def if someone dies in the act of you defending, saving someone else, like I mean, that seems noble. That seems like you don't want the other person to die. You don't hold any ill will to them, but they're not within their right to kill this other person, to step in and to protect the innocent person. I mean, on a cosmic scale, right? No one's innocent. Karmically, yeah, maybe. But still, even though karmically maybe that person deserved to be killed, it seems like we're still meant to be on the side of peace, or you know, not violence.
Mm. You remember the story that
Yeah.
when the Buddha passed, like he killed a thieves, right? Uh,
The Pirate King, Black Spear.
yeah. That mm, tried to kill 500 merchants. So he killed mm, that thieves to save that 500 merchants. And of
Mhm.
course, you have to pay for the karma later on. But still, if the beginners who read this type of conflict story, right? One thing is that the Buddha gave up everything. Another story is that the Buddha killed that thief, to save 500 people. So how could they They understand what's going on here. There's two opposites act.
Yeah. And I think that's like in osteopathic treatment, one of the ways that it's taught at schools is students are taught individual techniques.
Mm.
And they say, okay, if you find this thing, if the bones are this way and that way, then here's your one, step two, step three, step four. And so then they learn techniques. So if they find something that matches one of their techniques, then they have an idea of what to do. But if they if they find something that doesn't match their technique, they don't have any idea of what to do. And so I think here what we're like really discussing is the impossibility to create a rule for every scenario, to create a rule that fully encompasses how dynamic and intricate life is. So it's more of a there's a principle, and there's this principle of compassion, of wishing to act in a way that will cause all living beings to attain complete enlightenment and free from all suffering. And so then I mean, it depends on our wisdom how well we can navigate the individual circumstance. And the Jataka tales are like, okay, this was a person on the path to becoming a Buddha, and these are like different ways, different lifetimes where he demonstrated different virtues. And seeing, having the wisdom and seeing clearly to when maybe it's for the best that one actually does take a life. It seems like there's space for that conversation within Buddhism, even though it's a very small space, but there is a small space for that conversation. And that's maybe in that especially it was personal responsibility too in that scenario. It wasn't a story of him ordering an army to go and kill people. It was he was taking this on as a choice individually, not involving others. So that might be an important part of it too.
Yeah, that's why I used to ask my student that is that okay for a Buddhist to become a soldier, to take arms to fight for our countries, to protect our people? I used to ask them. And of course, some the young Buddhists, many of them are my followers. They love to join the army, navy, marine, and so forth. So of course, the way they justify is that yeah, they want to protect the country and they want to serve the country. So, um, have you encountered this type of young people that like to serve in the army, navy, and so forth? You give them some any kind of advice about that?
Oh, like Buddhist
I
young people? Like Buddhist? No, I haven't.
I can encounter so many of them. So most of the time I don't talk them out, but I say that well, especially with their parents, that's okay for them to have the thought that they want to serve the country, but it's better to serve in land. Like for example, if they enlist, they join with the National Guard or Coast Guard to protect
Hmm.
our borderline, and that's just better because when they go overseas, who know what happened? They may kill or they may be killed by whoever over there.
And some of the motivations for the conflicts around the world are questionable. Like
Yes.
you look at the Iraq War, obviously the Vietnam War, that was unusual while we were there. So yeah, that's I think that'd be the big thing. Like you don't want to kill or be killed over something that you don't even believe in. And
Yeah,
that's what can happen as a soldier.
yeah, they play with the politics, that the top guy, the president of the country, right? They play around with the politics. They play around with the power. They use the soldiers in general have their toys to promote the power and their part, but sometimes yeah, sometimes they say oh in the cause of protect the country, but sometimes in the cause of dominate other people, other countries. So
Hmm.
that's why I think For me, I used to advise the young people, that's okay. If you have a mind to serve the country, to protect the country or people, that's okay. But stay in line, stay in lane is better. It's safe for you and safe for others. So I say that, well, if you join with the National Guard or Coast Guard, you will catch, most time you will catch a bad guy. That's the way you can protect the country much better than to go there out there and we don't know what happened. So anyway, go back to the point is that one way that Dalai Lama he saw that the Chinese communists take invade his country as a way that he said, well, it's the karma plus um, to bring the bodhicitta to give things that hard to give. But for the Burmese people, there's no way. They have to protect Buddhism uh, against the Muslim invasion or whichever agent that try to harm Buddhism or religion in the country. And yes, of course, for us that somehow resistfully and practically we need to find some middle way, right? To those extremes, right? One way is that definitely we cannot practice the Buddha to give everything for others. Another way is that we cannot take arms in the names of Buddhism, right? To protect ourselves but harming others. Mm. That's a skillful way of a Bodhisattva. It's not easy, right? It's not easy to find when it's come to our situation, right? Mm.
Yeah, like in the scenario of if one of my family members was threatened and I had the opportunity to keep them from being harmed, but it would require violence,
Mhm.
you know, I feel like that'd be my responsibility. Like I feel like if I saw that I could save them and I might, he or she might kill them if I don't act, and if I act, I might kill the person who's gonna do the killing. Like, I feel very deeply that it would be my duty to save my family. Like I feel like, yeah, just if I didn't, I don't know, like I don't know, could I could maybe live with that, but say if my daughter was killed and my wife would be destroyed, or if my wife was killed and my daughter, she'd be destroyed by the death of her mother. So it'd be like,
Mhm.
it seems like it would come from a place of compassion, and the person that's initiating the violence, it would be kind of like whoever digs the pit is the one who's falling in. Um, but obviously I want to live a life where I avoid those situations. That's my main strategy.
Yeah, so I think before we go, I think everything's based upon the karma. If we didn't create any type of killing karma in the past, we would not face those type of killing karma nowadays. If we did, we have to face that. In my case, I was born during the Vietnam War. In my life, of course, before I escaped from Vietnam to Malaysia, came by boat. They enlist me to the army when I was 18, 17 year old. But I never carried the real guns in my life. So I thought that probably I didn't very much killing karma there. Otherwise, I would get involved in that
Nice.
in my country and even here. So the point is that if we understand the law of karma well, so it's better not to engage or do any kind of killing karma now. Because if we read now in future, we will grab into those type of karma there, no matter what we do. Um, but of course, Bodhisattva path is so wonderful. that we try to promote, but in reality, we need to find some middle ways um, to follow as well as to guide others. Not easy, not easy part, but is to workable or doable. Okay, so we discussed about this one. Right, can we stop here today?
Yes, this time.
Okay, so you come on Sunday morning?
Yes.